So how do we make good decisions? And this is really I want you to catch. It's bigger than vaccinations, but vaccinations fits into it. I would suggest to you going on social media and saying, should I get vaccinated or not, is probably not the right way to make a good decision. Why? Because there's more fools in the world than there are wise people. That's why the book of Proverbs tells you, hang with the wise people and you'll make better decisions. This is a way to pool ignorance. Be very careful. Some of us do a little chart, pros and cons. That's awesome, that's helpful, but I want to tell you it's inadequate. It's not complex enough. Got to look deeper. The most common way, I think, other than maybe social media for Americans is this, and this is a very common decision-making process. Stop, think, make a good decision. But when you're thinking, what do? How does this affect me and how does it affect others? Now, think about this. How will this affect me? That's my first question. Oh, I got to make a decision. How does this affect me? That's called narcissism. You're totally self-centered. And then we wonder why we have a society like we've got. We wonder why we can't have marriages. We wonder why we can't have families. We wonder why we can't have churches. Because we're totally always making decisions self-focused. We'll come back to that. And then others. This is a social decision. And you know what both of these are? Idolatry. If you're a Christian, friends, look at me. You're always online. This is idolatry. And this is the most common way that people, I think, are making decisions, other than maybe social media. Some of you make decisions like this. You're so cluttered in your head, you can't make a good decision, okay? And when I sit there and talking to you, I'm like, you just got all these bits, and it's like, you got to put this in order. You got to have an order. There's got to be, when you're making an important decision, you have to be able to work the problem. Otherwise, you're going to be an emotional basket case. You say, I'm married to one. Anyways, and some of you are like this. Just give me a cup of coffee, and I don't want to think about it anymore. Had a great person call me not too long ago. They said, Mark, these things are they were all melting down. These things are all too complex for me. I just want to have a cup of coffee and not think about it. That's great. Here's the problem. This affects your country. This affects your church. This affects your family. This affects your future. You had better think about these things and to figure out how to strengthen the hand of those that are facing real problems. So we got to make a decision. So here it is. This is how you make decisions. Friends, you're not going to get this in CNN. You're not going to get the University of Minnesota. You're not going to get it anywhere else probably in the state other than a few people that read their Bibles and believe their Bibles. And so here you are. That looks just like you, doesn't it? And this is how we do it. Command, principle, conscience, others, and then me. This order has to be followed to make the very best decision. It doesn't matter if you're talking about who you're going to marry. It doesn't matter if you're talking about what college you go to. It doesn't matter if you're talking about vaccination, non-vaccination, get vaccinated, not get vaccinated, whatever the case may be. This process has to be worked so that you can, on the other side, make a good decision. Now, sometimes we do this intuitively, but I would suggest to you intuitively is not enough when you're talking major stakes, all right? You really need to check the boxes. You need to pray over each of these. God, is there a command I need to know about this? Is there a principle? And quite honestly, most Christians haven't read their Bibles well enough to even know the commands or the principles. Our conscience haven't been honed, as Hebrews chapter 5 says. And so we're weak here. And so we lean on these two. And that ends up being idolatry, which we'll see.